whenever I work with the body and I'm doing an assessment, I assess all the systems of the body all the time, but I assess the lymphatics first. The lymphatics always come first, and I need to see just how involved they are. That comes from my assessment, that comes from my history, and then I'll determine what I need to do. That'll be using my first treatment as well. And the beautiful thing about my system is when I teach people how to assess the lymph nodes, the assessment is your first treatment. Because just by the nature of you pressing on these areas where you have the lymph nodes, I gave you a big list of them, but there's a lot more, is that when you press on them in the order that I'm telling you, you just flushed your lymphatics without even knowing it. And then that's why people say, first of all, I've never had anybody in my entire life assess that system or push on those places like you did in one session. And then they say, I can't believe how much of a difference that made me feel the following day just from that. And I'm like, that's just the power of physiology right there. That's all that is. And the 6 places that I have people massage the area is to reduce where you have a lot of this excess tension because you don't move a lot. And you release them in the exact order that I'm going to tell you to, and it'll help drain the lymph because it's just based on pressure. And I tell people, just think of a lot of water on the top of a mountain needs to flow to the bottom of the mountain. And then that's how we're going to do it this way. So what you do is you just take your hands and you can massage above the collarbone on both sides, right side and left side. So you take your fingers and you rub above the collarbone on both sides. And then I want you to put your fingers and rub a little bit below the collarbone on both sides. The point above and below the collarbone that's the big sticking point for most lymph. And if that's backed up, lymph won't work very well at all. So you do above the collarbone, below the collarbone with your fingertips for 5 to 10 seconds. It doesn't take a lot. Press in hard enough that you feel like you're getting a massage, but you're not hurting yourself. Then you go to the very top of your neck, right behind where your jaw sits, and you feel this big bone that's right where your ear is, and you just massage right at the top on both sides. That's number 2. Number 3 is right in the shoulder joint where your shoulder attaches to your chest muscle called your pec. So if I move my arm, that's the place where it moves. I do the left side, I do the right side. Then I want you to do the same thing from the belly button to the bottom of your sternum. So right around your abdomen a little bit. Then you go to the crease of your groin. So when you sit in a chair and you have that big crease, you massage right there. They get stuck. And then the other place is behind your knee, because when you sit, you flex your knee and then you choke fluid behind the knee. So then massage behind the knee, and you have to do it in that order. If you do it any other way, you can make yourself worse because you're not opening up these liquid channels the way that fluid wants to flow. And if you just do those places and then you jump up and down, you'll have even better results, right? It's just that simple. So for the people that get really tight or stiff at night, like we said before with the lymph, you can try that before you go to sleep and see how you feel. And then you can try it the next day when you wake up and see how you feel. One of the 2 ways you'll like better than the other, and you choose which one you like the way it makes you feel best first, and it can make a big difference for you.
Amazing. And just to I guess expand on this, I'm not sure if I ever sent you my client's email, Perry, but I've had a few clients go through your online course, and I'm going to help you plug it here, the Lymphatic Mojo course. And I had a client, just to give you a little bit of context, he had mold toxicity, he had an old parasitic infection, he had toxicity from organophosphates as well. He did your course, and it was on the second day of him doing it where he had incredible vivid nightmares that night. He woke up absolutely sweating. His sheets were just completely soaked through. And he had, for I think 24, 48 hours, some real sort of emotional releases as well. But he does, and it sounds horrible, but the positive spin on this is for him, it was one of the most important parts of his 8-year healing journey. So he's a huge advocate of lymphatic work and the Lymphatic Mojo course. And I use him as like my, my golden star of someone who's done this and who's reaped the rewards.
Oh, that's really wonderful to hear. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, it can be all of that for people. It can be very emotional when you begin to work those regions. And then when you start to unleash the obstruction or stagnation in the body and it begins to move, then you're going to start to release toxins that have been stuck for a while. And it's natural to feel kind of yucky for a little bit when that first happens, but that's actually a good thing in a way. And I've had it to where people say that they're actually blown away, honestly, because it seems so simple that all I got to do is rub these 6 places. How can that make such a big difference in anything? Because it doesn't seem logical. And I'm like, well, it's actually really logical once you understand physiology and exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it the way that you're doing it. But they usually say, if this was so simple and so great, why the hell am I just hearing about this now? Right? And then I say, I'm asking myself that question every single day because you should have been told this up to that point. And it doesn't have to be complicated to be effective either. And it can be really, really simple. But that's human nature. We tend to think that if it's not really complicated or intensive, that it's not as valuable. And I say it's completely the other way around, where the basics and the fundamentals, because that's how physiology works, is the more powerful thing too. Like, okay, well, it's pretty simple that you need oxygen, but if you don't get it, you're dead in a couple of minutes. So that's simple. That's not complicated. That's pretty big. So it's the same thing with all of these fundamental principles.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that story. That's really good. Really good.
Yeah.